Welcome back to Tom Mason. Today we're doing another episode of Blue Box Files. Now, this is another full-length interview I did as part of my documentary John Connor, The Man Who Was Doctor Who, which is available on this YouTube channel, Tom Mason. Now, this interview is slightly different to the James Mellor interview I did, because this one is filmed with not 3 cameras, but with 2, because of the room size. It's 2. Now, at the beginning, you'll see a lot of him when he's answering the question and a bit of me when I'm asking. But then when you get towards the end of the interview, then you'll see a lot of him, me reacting and this, that and the other. Because I was just getting to grips with the best way of doing it. Because I don't have the third angle with both of us in. I have to try and fit in where the balance is. But he is a writer of some of the Third Doctor adventures. He also wrote and starred in Adamant Lifts, among Unit, among others, but you'll enjoy it. Find out his experience within Doctor Who in this interview. So, without further ado, enjoy Guy Adams!
So we'll start at the very beginning, because it's a very good place to start. How did you get into Doctor Who?
What, as a viewer?
Yes.
Yeah, well, do you know, I think it's actually my earliest memory. I was talking about this with my wife yesterday. Keeper of Traken, I think, is my earliest memory. Why I decided that was something I needed to be watching, I have absolutely no idea. I can't remember that at all. But it's always been there. So, you know, if your first memory is a Tom on his way out, sort of gloomy Tom towards the end of Tom, you know, it's baked through me really, and yeah, I just obsessively watched it from that point on.
And so, who is your favourite Doctor?
I genuinely don't have one. I'm really bad on favourites, or really good on favourites, depending on your attitude. Because partially, I think I'm ADHD, so my mood or my taste is constantly going to be changing. So, you know, it's often Colin, because I love Colin with a passion, on a friendly level. Should Colin ever see this, I don't want Colin to worry. I know he's quite close to my wife, so he might start to worry but it's honestly, just as an actor, I love it. As a human being, it's just wonderful. Anyway, so it's often Colin, but it can be any number of them. Because, you know, I don't think we've got it wrong, which is quite amazing after so many.
Yeah, and how did you end up working with the mega corporation that is Big Finish?
There was a friend of mine. There was 2 people I knew, who one was Cav Scott, who I'd helped Cav Scott with something, and we'd sort of become friends. And then he was producing Irish Wild Time, and asked me if I'd do a story featuring Carnacki, because I'd just written a novel that had Carnacki in it, which is an old supernatural detective character. Yes, they'll definitely do that. Lovely, brilliant. I'm working for Big Finish, and at the same time, a friend of mine, James Goss, that I'd worked in again in books, was producing New Adventures of Bernie Summerfield, and wanted me to do a Bernie story for him. And so, you know, literally both happened at the same time, and I ended up acting in the Benny box set, doing all the voices that I shouldn't be doing. Going, oh, he's being Egyptian now. Really, I mean, it's not terribly good. I shouldn't be in the studio being Egyptian. I was born in Devon, but I was in, and Nick was in as well, and also we just, you know. I had an ear for audio, I think.
Yeah.
And so I kept getting the jobs. I kept getting so not technical jobs.
And how did you end up working on the Third Doctor adventures?
Who would have commissioned that? Would have been David Richardson, I think. There'd be David Richardson and John Dorney would have been script editing. And one or the other would have said, well, it's time Guy did a Third Doctor. I'm trying to think which was my first one. The first one was the I never would. I can't remember the names of the things I've written. Talk about behind the scenes. I was Doctor Who. I remember it well. Yes, it was a lovely job. Lovely girl. What was her name? The Transcendence of Ephros. That's right. That wasn't my title. That was Nick. That's why I couldn't remember it. But it was marvellous fun. And Tim Treloar obviously does a wonderful Pertwee. But I love the Third Doctor. At the same time, I was always being a bit worried by him. Because I think of all the Doctors, the one that's most likely to tell you off, and I worry about being told off a lot, it's him. You know, if the First Doctor tells you off, you just go, grumpy old sod does that. But if Pertwee tells you off, I think you'd worry about that. I think you'd spend a few days feeling sore and a bit nervous because the headmaster has told you off while eating a little piece of cheese and drinking port and making you feel very small. I think the Third Doctor's quite intimidating.
And did you ever get to meet Jon Pertwee when it was he was still alive?
I sadly didn't. No, I never met John. I still call him John. Again, very behind the scenes. John, no, never met him. Don't know him at all, but I'll still call him by his first name. That's a very Doctor Who fan thing, isn't it? We feel that close. But no, sadly not.
And since writing on the box set and since they've been released and since people enjoy them through their ear holes, have you met any of the family? And if you have they received the well?
What, Jon Pertwee's family?
Yeah.
No. No, sadly not. I've met his pretend family. I've met most of UNIT. I've obviously know Katie. They all seem to think it was okay, but that's the closest I've got to a seal of approval.
Yeah. And what was it like writing the stories? Because obviously you're not with us.
It's. I mean, you're always kind of. I think I have an ear for characters and performances. I was an actor for a number of years, but I think it's just something I'm lucky that I've got a natural thing for. So when writing any of these characters, I hear Joe Grant or the Third Doctor or Sergeant Benton. It is then just channeling those voices and going, well, okay, I've got their rhythm, I've got what they sound like, I now need to make them say this. And then you have to find the way that they would say that.
Yeah.
I seem okay at sort of feeling that. It's very much, it's not, I don't overthink it. I don't overthink much.
And before you start writing them, do you watch a certain story to get you in the mood and the mindset?
To be honest, I've watched it so much I don't have to. Which is, sometimes with new series stuff I've had to, because just it's more recent.
Yeah.
But, since, I'm 47, so if I've been watching Doctor Who since I was, I don't know, 5, I can't do the maths that quickly, it doesn't matter. However long it was, I've seen it so many times over then. I mean, my least watched Third Doctor story, what's that going to be? Probably the mutants, and I must have seen that at least 5 times. So it's so baked in, I can access that.
Yeah.
I can't remember a lot of events from my own life, but I can remember the mutants. What a weird brain I have.
And since they've been released, do you reckon the fans have received these in a positive light?
I hope so. I mean, you whenever you do a job like this, you know that some people are going to really like it and some people are going to hate it, and the people that hate it will tell you. Which I wish they wouldn't. That's sort of part of it, and that's okay. That's fine. I think mostly people have liked the stories I've done. Hopefully.
Yeah, and have you actually met any of the fans that have listened to them?
No, I've died because I did one of the Big Finish days and done a couple of things where people have turned up for, even when if I've done a book event or something, people will turn up with Big Finish stuff and tell me that they love this and they've found it's wonderful. You're not going to come and get my signature unless you liked it. So that's going to sort of twist the balance. You go, everyone loved it. It's marvelous. Everyone that's come up adored it. So that helps.
And when you're at these non-Doctor Who events, do you get more Doctor Who fans coming over to you than non-Doctor Who fans? Probably,
to be honest, yeah. Since starting to do Big Finish, it's my Big Finish stuff has got a bigger audience than anything else that I do.
Yeah.
But never mind.
Yeah.
It's nice to have an audience.
And this might be the worst word I've ever used, but how do you reckon you've left the legacy of Jon Pertwee still alive? Yeah.
Hopefully respectfully, and hopefully added a few things. There's no point. I think this kind of writing is at its worst when it doesn't bring a little something new to it. Otherwise, why bother, really, in a way? And I hope that the death of Joe Grant, in particular, I think, was a really lovely story for Joe and the Third Doctor, and it there was a lot of nice emotional stuff in there for them, which I feel proud to have put there.
Yeah. And what is your like proudest moment of writing these stories, if you've got one?
For the Third Doctor stuff, being all of the Rutans. Like my Rutans? No, I mean Vardens. I've been Rutans too, I think. I like to be all of the aliens invading whenever possible. I like to turn up and do a bit of acting stuff. But I did, I invaded the Earth and was defeated by the Third Doctor. But I had to do it in 4 different distinct voices and a lot of jumping up and down in front of a mic.
Yeah. And what's going off with you acting? What's your favourite acting role you've done within the Big Finish world?
Weirdly, it's probably the smallest, and it was the first story I wrote for Tom, so it was my first Fourth Doctor, and I cheated. I wrote a little scene in it that would just need a cameo, someone that would be in it for about 5 pages. And when that was going into studio, I said to Nick, who was directing, I don't suppose there's any chance I can play the character that's in it for just those 5 pages. Because I thought, I've got to do a scene with Tom Baker. And he said, yeah, it's fine, because I'd done that stuff by then. But I got to go and do a slightly silly, slightly comedic scene with Tom Baker. And you think, that's it now, that's fine. So yeah, that's the proudest, I think.
And are you planning on writing any more stories for Jon's era?
Happily, if they ask me. I'm not commissioned for any at the moment, but that doesn't mean anything. With a bit of luck, yeah.
And how does commissioning work at Big Finish?
Well, generally speaking, so it would be, say they're working on another 2 box sets. They'll think, okay, so we need 4 stories. We need these kind of stories. Who will be the best writers for those stories? Producer and script editor will sort of feel their way a little bit on the shape, and then contact 4 writers and say, I want you to do a set on Earth story. I want you to do a set in space story. Come up with some ideas, and off you go.
Yeah. When you write, do you listen to like any movie soundtracks or music?
Always. Yeah. I collect movie soundtracks. If without our heads going too wrong, if you look in that direction, there's lots of movie soundtrack records over there. There you go. Behind the scenes has caught it, if nothing else. So yeah, I'm always listening to movie soundtracks. It's an obsession.
And what is your favourite Jon Pertwee story that you've actually watched on the television?
Again, I'm not brilliant on favourites. I'll say Curse of Peladon today, but I would say The Demons.
So does your favourite change every so often?
Yeah, completely. Yeah. That's why it's not that I'm just not willing to commit, but it's complete. My mood means that within any 5-minute window, I'm suddenly going, no, I need that flavour. No, I need this flavour. I need that performance. I flit.
Yeah, and what's it like working in the Big Finish environment?
Oh, it's great. It's a really you're able to do a lot of creative things within it. Obviously, there are some respectful restrictions. You're creating Doctor Who, so the BBC have to be happy with it. Everyone has to be happy with it. You can't just do anything. But the recording process is usually my favourite.
Yeah.
Purely because that's the point at which it ceases to be mine, and then I don't you know, because there's two moments of pleasure. There's writing a certain line on the page where you go, I like the rhythm of that line, I'm proud of that. But then it's gone. Then it's all about notes and changes and making everything work.
Yeah.
It is work. And then you get into a studio if you're able to attend a recording, which I try and do as often as possible. And then it becomes play again because it's a room full of brilliant actors. I mean, I've worked with amazing actors. I've been so lucky. And interacting with them, sometimes acting in it yourself, but not always. I'm often just sort of there and listening and just enjoying how they will change what I've done.
Yeah.
And then it becomes something else that, you know, will either be good or not, and it's no longer down to me whether it's good or not.
Yeah.
I have a part to play in that, but it becomes a bigger thing than that.
And once you've written them and once it's out in the world, do you well, you probably don't spend your money on it because you probably get given it, but do you listen back to these stories to see how they've done it in the editing process, see if it matches up with your vision?
I have to. I find it's actually uncomfortable, to be honest. I don't like reading things I've written. I don't like listening to things I've written. But I can't relax knowing that a script with my name on, a story with my name on is out in the world and I haven't heard it. Just because I need to know what it is like, because it's not necessarily at all like it was in my head. That's not because I want to judge it. It's just I feel if I'm involved in it, I need to know what it is.
Yeah.
And so I have to listen to it. But it's usually with a slight, well, I should have done that.
Yeah.
Or I wish I'd done that. So yeah, I don't enjoy it much, I must admit.
And do you reckon that Tim does a good portrayal of John?
Yeah, I think he's amazing. He's really got, Tim's great. It's a difficult job because you don't want to just do an impression. If you're just going to be there doing an impression, you've got to act. And so you need to find a line between a voice that is so solidly pertwee that it's going to work, but that you can perform with. You're not just obsessing over how that vowel sounds or how this, because that's a very two-dimensional way of performing. The performance would be awful if that's all you were doing. Yeah. And he really surfs that brilliantly. He's a very talented boy.
Yeah. And do you reckon that if John was alive now, would he appreciate these audios?
I think he would, yes. I wonder how he'd feel as someone else playing his part. I suppose that wouldn't happen. So I'm going to overthink this now. Yeah. So it wouldn't happen unless he had said, I don't want to do it, so let Tim do it. Yeah. And then he probably wouldn't listen to it, because I imagine as an actor you then go, but I don't want to hear what he does with my life. But I think he'd be perfectly, I think he was proud of what he'd done with Doctor Who, and I think proud of how that kept rolling on, Decades later he'd be on a West Yorkshire Playhouse doing the ultimate adventure. It's a weird legacy of a job, isn't it? It keeps rolling on.
And do you have any future ambitions with Big Finish, not just in the world of Doctor Who?
Well, I've got some stuff on. So I've got Adam Adamant is hovering. There's 2 series written for that, and we'll see what happens with that. I'm currently I'm finishing off a very big Doctor Who one, 12 episodes. And I'm about to work on another in the world of Doctor Who box set.
Yeah. And what's it like writing unit audios? Because you've done that as well.
Oh, I enjoyed Unit. I really liked... I think the first one I did, I wasn't so sure. It felt... Because my writing's not naturally sort of militaristic. I think I tend to be quite... I think the most natural scripts you'll hear from me are the ones that are playful in their rhythms. Yeah. So the particularly Fourth Doctor, I suppose. But again, with the Third Doctor things, you can still you have that wonderful rhythm, and the Space Age stuff is perhaps slightly easier for that in some ways. But the modern day unit felt very, these are people that wear uniforms and carry guns, and I'm not used to writing for those sort of people. But I got into sort of lockstep with it, I think, particularly just being with the actors, and as always, really hitting it off with them and think, okay, I'm now writing for these people. That's what
Yeah.
I'm doing. And that made all the difference.
Yeah. But when you were younger, did you have ambitions to become this like mega Doctor Who writer?
It would never have occurred to me that I would do it. It's one of the biggest things for me is, the same child that subscribed to Doctor Who magazine as little newsagents because his parents said, all right, you can have a magazine that costs 80 pence. Oh my God, you exorbitant child. Fine, take your expensive 80 pence magazine. I'm that old. And the idea that one day I would be in there. There was a period, because I have been really quite prolific with Big Finish, and it became a standing joke between my wife and I. The Doctor Who magazine would come and go, well, where am I? Yeah, there I am. I'm doing this. Which one is it this week? It's the first Doctor thing. It's Ice Warriors this week.
Yeah.
I've just written a column about Ice Warriors, and it's bizarre that this sacrosanct special space that I it wasn't somewhere I ever thought I would step into.
Yeah.
So it feels very weird, but thanks, obviously.
Yeah. And do you enjoy working within Doctor Who?
Very much so. I mean, you've got to maintain a bit of a balance, I think. I'm worried and worrying still to a degree, I think. Doctor Who is the thing I love. And if you let your job become, because jobs come, as much as I love writing Doctor Who scripts, it doesn't mean every day doing it is fun.
Yeah.
Because it is a job. And there'll be times where something's really difficult, or it's annoying, or you just don't enjoy it. There's a lot of scripts I haven't enjoyed writing, because it's writing. You don't always enjoy it. And I never want to get to a point where Doctor Who feels like a job, and one that therefore I love Doctor Who a little less. That would make me very sad. So I always monitor that in my head, because that's precious. I don't want to break anything.
Yeah. And so, what would you want to see the Third Doctor do next, if you got chance to write more?
I'd like to do it historical, I think. I'd take him to, I'm obsessed with film, so I'll take him to the early days of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I won't riff off Metropolis, because John's already done that. That's right, we'll avoid that. Citizen Kane, I'll let the Third Doctor meet Orson Welles, because I think they'd wrestle. Episode 3 would just be 25 minutes of wrestling.
Yeah. And finally, would you see the Doctor and Adam Adamant work well together if they ever did a crossover?
Well, they've got the clothes. I mean, they can both carry off a cape, those lads. So yes, I don't see why not. I think they have the same taste of their wine cellar is probably also similar. But I think they'd be good.
Well, hopefully Big Finish do that one day.
Why not? And I could just be the manservant between the two of them.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this interview.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Don't forget to subscribe to the official Tom Mason YouTube channel